DNC's been going on this week. I kind of get the impression watching, they don't like you very much.
I don't think so. It's pretty sad, but no, they're not big fans. I'm not big fans of theirs either.
You get your shot next week. Preview for us. What's going to be different from what we've seen this week in a very dark presentation of America
very dark.
to what we're going to see next week?
It's been very dark, and they're not talking about law and order. They're not talking about police. They don't want to get into it. When they look at Portland, or when they look at New York or Chicago, and when they look at what's happening with these Democrat-run cities and states, they're disgraceful, and they don't even talk about it. When you saw the young man just get obliterated the other night in Portland, they don't talk about that. And, you know, in theory, they have to ask us to come in, or unless it gets so bad, in which case we can do it ourselves. But we're thinking about doing it because what's happening in Chicago and New York, but what's happening in Portland, they're anarchists and agitators, and they say they're peaceful protesters. They burn down the stores, they're ripping down buildings. I've never seen anything like it, run by Democrats.
You made a comment this week that I thought was very, very appropriate. You made the point that all this talk about your presidency and how great Obama was, that it was the Obama administration that set the table for you to be elected president.
Well, except for Obama and Biden, I wouldn't be president. I was never even thinking about it. You know that. I've known you a long time. I was never thinking about it. And then I have to listen to what a wonderful job they did. They did a terrible job. They didn't bring the economy back. The economy was the slowest. It was the slowest recovery since 1929. It was going forever. It would have never happened. And we had the greatest economy in history until the plague came in from China.
Yeah.
And China will pay for that. And I watch Obama talking, and it's like, I wouldn't be president except for you. Because if he did a good job, I wouldn't have won. Nobody would have won. But he did a horrible job.
Part of what I think people may not realize, the economy was on fire prior to the virus coming in.
Yeah.
On fire.
Hottest ever in the history of the world.
Where would we be had we had an Obama-Biden era economy going into something like the virus?
It's very interesting, Mike, because instead of the comeback that we're having, which is one of the great comebacks ever, we'll have it good. Next year's going to be a great year economically. If I didn't do what I did, we shut it out, we closed out China, we closed out Europe. And I did this long before Dr. Fauci and everybody else asked me to do it. I did it long. We would have lost millions of people more. I mean, think of it, 10, 15 times more. We've done it all right, but it's a vicious disease. It's a vicious problem that came in. So we took over a basically limping along economy and made it the hottest economy in the world. At the same time, we took massive amounts, hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs. They went to the worst year they've had in 67 years, as you know. They had a horrible, horrible economy because of me. And I don't want them to have a horrible economy, but you know what? They've been ripping us off for 25 years. And they never had a better time than during the Obama-Biden years. I mean, Biden walks in and he gets his son $1.5 billion that he gets management fees on, which is millions of dollars a year. And the guy didn't even have a job. Between that and Ukraine and others, we're now finding out. So, I mean, it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace.
When we're talking about the virus, early on there were people saying, well, the president's got to take control. You said the 10th Amendment means that there's certain things you can do, but you need to let local governors, mayors make decisions. They made decisions. Now it's like they are telling you that you shouldn't have done that. But I don't know that you had a constitutional option.
We have 50 states, and I let the 50 governors run their states. They weren't equipped. Most of them weren't equipped. They had empty cupboards because nobody ever, I don't even blame them necessarily because nobody thought a thing like this could happen. 1917 was the big one, and that was close to 100, they think close to 100 million people, from 50 to 100 at least. Frankly, putting the ban on, that was something we did that nobody wanted me to do. Putting the ban on people, very heavily infected people coming in from China, long before it would have been fashionable. That was a big move. We've made a lot of good moves. And if you look at what's happening now, the numbers are way down.
Joe Biden said you were xenophobic for doing that. It saved lives.
He called me racist. Yeah. He called me xenophobic. He called me everything. 2 months later, he was saying he did the right thing, and he actually, in a forum, apologized, okay? But, maybe there was just a weak moment. Maybe he didn't know what he was saying. Could that be possible? But he actually did. He sort of apologized. But look, it's a terrible thing. But as you said, we created the hottest economy, not just of our country, best ever, best stock market, best employment numbers. We just about hit 160 million people working. Never happened before, never even close. We're the greatest economy we've ever had. African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, everybody was working. Women, people without a high school degree, with a high school degree, great scholars, everybody was working. And you know what? The country was coming together because people ask, how do you get the country together? Success. The country was coming together. And then we got hit by this plague from China. And now what we're doing, we did the right thing. We had to close it up, and now we're rebuilding it, and we're beyond a V. They were saying, oh, you'll never get a V. Well, we're at a super V if you look at the numbers.
The stock market this past week hit highest ever.
Yeah.
Coming out of this, that's pretty stunning. I don't think people saw that coming.
But that just shows you the optimism that very smart people have. And don't forget, stock market is a lot of people. That's 401ks, that's people that have stock. These are massive companies, but they're owned by sort of everybody. And the stock market's doing great. The farmers are doing great because they got them $28 billion from China because China targeted the farmers. And I said to my people, how bad was it? About $28 billion. I tariffed China and I gave them $28 billion right from China. And now China's buying more than they've ever bought from the American farmer. But I feel differently about China, so differently. I mean, normally I'd be jumping up and down with that news. They gave the largest corn order in history last week. And that's good, but you know what? It can never compensate for what we went through with this whole thing. It's a terrible thing that happened, Mike.
And we've got more with President Trump coming up later in the show. When we do, he'll address the chaos in some cities versus law, as well as health care and a whole lot more. So stay tuned.